Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a superb Sunday so far. Today, we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update, and we're actually going to spend quite a lot of time in this video actually looking at the stock market, because the stock market, in my opinion, is very much setting the tone for the cryptocurrency space. We know we had a very weak close, in fact, rather a horrific close on many accounts for the stock market. Stock market, of course, doesn't trade over in the weekend, and I think this is, in my opinion, going to lead to weakness for the cryptocurrency market in the coming weeks. Now, there is a glimmer of hope that we do find support. It doesn't have to be instant. You know, the cryptocurrency market is very volatile. That's why you should always be very careful trading it, especially with leverage. Even a light amount of leverage, 4, 5, 6% can liquidate you in the cryptocurrency market, because it's not unheard of that your cryptos can do that kind of move within a 24-hour period and actually get you liquidated. So just a word of warning there, if you're trading this, certainly to the downside. I mean, I have a number of shorts open. My net position is long crypto. You know, I'm ultimately here for the long run. I really believe in this space and where it's going, and I don't think we've seen anything yet for it. But right now, we're tethered to the macro landscape. And that macro landscape, in my opinion, is becoming increasingly more risky. We've seen people take risk off the table to date. And I think we may see continuation of that, certainly if things get bad across the board. So we're going to be getting into that all in this video. Like I say, we're going to start with this tweet. This chart absolutely haunts me, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time. We've been bringing this up for a while now. We've been posting it on Twitter. If you're not already following me on Twitter, guys, I actually gave the altcoins that I was short on there. And I often get this. People say, well, you know, if you're such a believer in the crypto space, why are you shorting it? Listen, I'm a investor, first and foremost, a swing trader, and then an even short-term trader at that. I'm going to take advantage of markets that are clearly moving to one side or the other, and that have momentum behind them. I don't always trade, but when there's opportunity there, when I can see, when my overall bias and narrative that I've built, starting from the macro, working right the way down to the smaller time frames, sort of looks to go one way, I'll take advantage of that. And by doing that, my long crypto portfolio, which is the majority of my portfolio, gets somewhat hedged. Even if the portfolio sells off, you know, I'm making money on one side of the trade. So let's just dive straight into it, and then we'll be looking at your equities. Your equities do not look good, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, they look very sickly, and we've been highlighting the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ composite. We had referred to the Market Sniper's tweets, where he was essentially looking at a sort of broader head and shoulders that is going to see further continuation to the downside. And as this environment heats up, you know, we've got the interest rate hike coming, I think this week, actually, this coming week might be around about the 4th of May, so in a couple of days. The Fed are going to have to show their teeth at this point. There's no way they can get around it. They've done too much talking to not do a 50 basis point rate hike. And I think that's going to show people and cause people to take more risk off the table. I don't think we've seen panic for this market yet. You know, there's still a lot of people that still think, and things in the long term, guys, mid to long term, are going to be A-okay. Short term, it's whatever, in regards to the fact that we're so tethered to everything going on now, and it's a risk-off environment. The cryptocurrency market is seen as a risk-on asset, along with the equity market, and you're seeing this trend throughout all risk-on assets actually being taken off the table, and doing that with the evolving landscape that we're in. So let's just start with this tweet, guys. It's been a long intro, but I've got a lot to say in this video, and it's well worth paying attention to. Worst start to the year for the NASDAQ ever. No chance Fed raises FF to 3.25% by December 23, as priced by MKT now. Too much damage too quickly, combined with record bond MTK class. Another 10% on equities, and we'll see breakage / Fed reversal. Inflation has already peaked. So this was an interesting tweet. I don't agree with this entire tweet, but it's sort of telling you what's going on. You know, the Fed are talking very tough. I don't think they're going to get there. And people are often saying, okay, well, they are going to. No, they're not. To compare the current period that we're in, 2022, to any prior period is not logical in my sense. Yes, there may be similarities there, but there's a lot more differences. And the main difference with interest rate hikes and the Fed getting to those percentages that they've set out is that we have, I think the US total debt is about 90 trillion. That's a lot of debt and nowhere near the kind of debt that we had in the 1970s. So to compare those as time periods and look at to a kind of soft landing for that, I don't think is the Fed have almost got a license to break, but they also have a obligation to not destroy, if that makes sense. So I do think they're going to up interest rates and continue to do it to a point. I don't know how far that gets. I think a couple of 50 and we're really going to start to see markets in the world of pain. And this tweet was really highlighting the fact that the NASDAQ had the worst start to the year ever. And you can see here down 21%. 1973 was 19%. Of course, and you guys can, of course, read the rest of them. So if we're going to see continuation for the equity market, and there's a lot of things that suggest this, what does that mean for the cryptocurrency market being in the tender kind of situation that it already is? It is in a very, I think the right word is vulnerable position. This chart we've been showing, which is the long-term regression bands for Bitcoin. This is a 3-day chart. The reason I've used a 3 days is because I want to show you the moving averages for the 50 and the 20, or 200, sorry. And you are looking, we'll take the 21 EMA off. That's just an indicator that I use for relative strength or weakness in a market. Up or down trends, you know, it kind of confirms them given where it is in position with it. But you can see you are potentially about to have this, what people will call a death cross. I hate calling it death and bullish crosses. You know, it's just somewhat an indication that things are slowing down and maybe a further downside continuation is ensuing. And you can see where you are in this regression band as well, also potentially confirms that narrative. If you look at what's happened previously, if we do get that cross take place, you know, we are potentially looking at further downside. And I absolutely don't think that it's out of the question, ladies and gentlemen, for the cryptocurrency market to be working its way down to the 30Ks or potentially lower, dependent on the macro backdrop. Listen, guys, if the Fed come out and they go, we're only going to do 25 basis points, markets will fly on the back end of that. The issue with that is the 50%, the 50 bips essentially have already been, they're almost a definite that they're going to happen. You know, lots of indicators that are like 97% accurate, you know, are looking at that and pricing that in. So just be careful in the coming weeks, potentially coming months, and we're going to watch how this market transpires. Of course, my net position, again, as I mentioned at the start of the video, is I have a hodl pot, a large hodl pot that I'm in this for the next 5 to 10 years. I think crypto stands a good chance of starting even the end of this year, as early as the end of this year, depending on how everything progresses. I think crypto is going to make headroom back to the upside. But I think there's potentially more downside at play. And if you want to go and follow my Twitter, guys, at @RealAllInCrypto is the Twitter handle. We do have certain altcoins that we're shorting. My favorite happens to be Rune and Luna. But one thing that I really want to stress, if you guys are trading it, certainly with leverage, I'm light leverage. So I don't choose to trade anything above 6x leverage. 10x leverage is basically gambling, in my opinion. But typically the leverage kind of that I will use is between 2 and 3. So basically nothing. And the reason being is because, yes, my outlook for the somewhat immediate future is that there's more downside. But that doesn't mean that crypto can't spike 20% on the back end of good news. And if you're 5x leverage, you're liquidated at that point. Yeah, so do not trade this market, even though we're looking at our biases, we're looking at the narrative, and it suggests that there's more downside. Don't ruin that with high leverage, because you can get wicked out. And I've seen it, and it happened to me time and time again. You know, I don't often trade, but when I can see markets looking like this with a macro backdrop that fits, it makes sense to hedge my long net spot position with short. So it's not that I hate the cryptocurrency market or I'm against it or anything like that. It's just I'm looking to capitalize whether this market goes up or down. However, maintaining my bias that, you know, we still get that continuation. And you know, you're at a very key point here for the total 2, which is the altcoin market. Monday opens and it's negative for the traditional stock market. The crypto market is likely to follow. And given how things closed on Friday, I mean, you put a toe here under on the NASDAQ. that kind of spells out continuation to the downside for me. That's what I'm looking at here. And we got Berkshire Hathaway earnings decline in the first quarter on slowing economy growth, stock market pullback. Berkshire Hathaway can be quite a good reference point because they are more of a safe is definitely not the right word, but more of a conservative fund, more of a conservative company, and they typically, when they start to see declines, your other funds have already started to see significantly or more significant declines that are exposed to some of these equities. So the Nasdaq doesn't look great. SPY also doesn't look great. Google, I mean, just look at Google, guys. Equities are looking like cryptocurrencies at the moment, which is the interesting thing, I think. I mean, Google is down 24%. Of course, earnings didn't help any of this. Amazon is down 34%. Netflix, I mean, forget it, is down. I mean, it's down more than a lot of your altcoins out there, even your small altcoins, 73%. MicroStrategy is down 73%. And ARK, which was many people's favorites even going into 2021, just got absolutely smashed. And is going to continue to do so, in my opinion, with everything tightening and everything going on. But there is good news in all of this, and that is the sense that we will come out the other side of it. I just genuinely think, and I could be totally wrong, by the way, guys, and the market could, we could have something completely unexpected. But I think there's too many elephants in the room to not notice them all. To not lock eyes with one and go, hang on, what's this doing here? It doesn't seem like the fertile ground for a flourishing runaway bull market for the crypto space. We could just continue to range trade. That would be, and there's a lot of what I'm saying is quite negative, but there's lots of positives to be taken out of this. 2021 has been a huge year of learning, in my opinion. And in actual fact, the fact that crypto is still, and we showed you the equities. I mean, Bitcoin's actually holding up a lot better than your equities, your traditional real-world assets, if you will. That says a lot. And when we looked yesterday at Willy Woo's tweet, where he was essentially calling for your big boys, your big banks that are essentially shorting the derivatives market, but also buying spot Bitcoin. And he said that that's one reason why the price has held up as well as it has. And it has held up relatively well in comparison with everything. And another thing, by the way, the institutional and professional investors have woken up. We are just at the beginning. SIBA Bank chair on Bitcoin and crypto. I believe this, but your institutions that have been told to take risk off are going to play a very much cautious game, certainly with crypto. Well, they're going to be looking for lower prices to get in at, which is why I think a whole new rally starts. But I think potentially right now you are looking at, I mean, look at where we are, guys. It's just a haunting chart. Potentially further downside before that continuation. Comparing a chart of Bitcoin right now with something from the 1920s or the Dow in the 1980s is just like, it just does not seem logical to me at all. And it seems, when you have time periods like this, you can't take 2021, 2020's mentality into 2022. We've already seen, and we have a basket of different factors. And really, when you look at markets, generally right now, and we'll take all of this off, and it's not just Bitcoin, but Bitcoin can be a very good example of this. From March 2020, it went up 1,500%. Why is it not out of the realms of possibility that we have a pullback from that epic run that we saw and a cooling off of that before we set up for more continuation? I don't think we enter this sort of 2-year-long bear market like we've previously seen, just like I don't think 2021's blow off top happened. Or just like 2021's blow off top didn't happen. I think that, this is more macro driven. It's going to be more short and sweet. And that, it does recover eventually. But right now, my bias is that there's more downside coming for the cryptocurrency market, which I know isn't what people want to hear. But there's no point in me coming on here and telling people that I'm exceptionally bullish in the short term when I'm not. I'm somewhat bearish in the short term. I don't think it has to be a slammer from Alabama, but I just think that the signals that I'm getting right now in the market, not only actively trading it, investing it, and looking at it from all aspects, even using the likes of DeFi, which we're seeing a pullback in, point to me that the conditions are different. And just the amount of good news that we get that doesn't even move the market. In fact, we see the market sell off on amazing news, whether that be Bitcoin being added to 401ks, BlackRock ETF, JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs offering a Bitcoin loan. The market doesn't do anything, and that's a very common trait for a downtrending market. And the main thing that I pay attention to at the moment is what's happening with the equity market, and the reason being is just the correlation that we've seen with it to date, and I think that correlation is something that's going to continue. And I also don't think, I don't know how bad the situation gets on a economical scale. So in terms of an economy, I don't know how bad that's actually going to get, and then that of course is going to factor in, when you're talking about crypto, there is quite a retail involvement in it. When do we get to the point when you've still got a lot of people hodling right now when they actually want to get rid of their bags? I don't think we're at that point yet, but that point may never come. So I know that is a doom and gloom. People think that I'm bearish. I'm not. That's why I hold a large spot position of crypto. I don't see a problem with shorting certain altcoins to hedge the risk that I have to the downside for my portfolio. That downside is actually good for my spot trading or my futures trading. But that is really all I have for you guys. Just stuff to pay attention to. Monday is going to be a very telling day. It's also a bank holiday in the UK on a Monday, so I don't know how that's going to factor things in, but it could see a weakness. It could see weakness in markets potentially. But we will see, and of course we will be back tomorrow with another update, updating you guys on absolutely everything to do with the cryptocurrency market. So don't be too down, guys. There's huge opportunities approaching and coming for not just the cryptocurrency space, but markets across the board. And certainly you guys know that I believe crypto is going to offer the largest ROI out of all of your investments. It's going to be the biggest or the best ROI in terms of an asset class, in my opinion, over the next 5 years. That's something I believe. So that's really all I have for you guys. If you've enjoyed this content, like, so appreciate it. So as a comment, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next YouTube video. Have a fantastic Sunday, ladies and gents.